Welcome to Corrective Consciousness, episode 275, the podcast where we explore the inanity of pop culture. I'm your host, vysethebold, and this is...
Lotus Prince.
And another wonderful show here. We are continuing our discussion of Tim Burton's Batman. Now, in our previous two episodes of Corrective, we have discussed the influences and actual lead-up and actual release of Tim Burton's 1989 Batman, a hugely influential movie in the genre, for sure. And then in our second episode, we talked about the impact, all of the merchandise that was associated with it, and all the video games and all that kind of stuff. So today we're actually going to do the next bit of follow-up, which would be about its sequel, Batman Returns. Have you watched this movie recently, Lotus?
Not recently. Although I hear they got the It's Always Sunny guy in it.
So you were quite right. They do this in sequels sometimes. They kind of give you, they try to amp up the stakes by having two villains.
Well, actually, I was going to mention that. That is a trend that continued through Schumacher. It took all the way up to Christopher Nolan's Batman Begins to not have two villains.
Well, the first one really does.
Well, that is true, actually.
It's kind of a fake out.
Scarecrow's around. All right, that's a good point. Point.
The second...
Let's say The Dark Knight, then.
The Dark Knight has two villains as well. Two-Face and the Joker.
Again, that's true, but Two-Face shows up, and becomes a Batman villain, for a second.
The third one also has two villains.
Well, we got Bane, but Catwoman's just straight up not a villain in that.
No, Talia al Ghul is the big bad.
Well, she also shows up for 1 second, or at least reveals herself for 1 second.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, they're technically two.
I keep disproving you.
Yeah. In the Burton and Schumacher ones, it's pretty equal treatment throughout. Although I will say,
Batman and Robin has the most.
Batman and Robin has 3.
Yeah. Well, Bane barely counts.
Well, I mean, yeah, but that goes back to what I was saying with the Nolan stuff. Bane's just a high-level thug in that one.
Is basically a zombie.
Now that I think about it, the original Tim Burton Batman had two villains, because it had Bob.
But...
What a guy.
What is good about this one is, of course, you don't have to establish Batman. But that's what the good thing about the second movie, right? The second movie is you don't have to do an origin story. You don't have to establish the character. You don't have to establish the vibe. It's already done. The groundwork is already there for you.
That's true, although we did mention, they didn't really have to do much of that even in the first movie.
That's true. Well, they did have to establish him as the new up-and-coming, force within Gotham. I mean, he was new to Gotham at the time. He was legendary, literally legendary at the time. He was an urban legend that proved to be true. But they didn't do an origin story, but they did do establishment of the character. So... they did have that, but Batman Returns kind of jumps right the fuck into it, which is pretty cool. Yep. From the very start, you have the backstory of what Lotus was referring to, of Danny DeVito's character of the Penguin, whose dad is in a cameo of Paul Rubens, which is really funny.
I don't even think I either did not know that or did not remember that.
He shows up for 5 seconds.
Wow.
Yeah, but I mean, Tim Burton and Paul Rubens are buds going way back. I mean, Pee-wee's Big Adventure was his big thing. But I mean, Paul Rubens is in other stuff that Tim Burton
he's
did.
a vampire with the single greatest death sequence ever put on film in the Buffy movie.
Paul Rubens is very underrated. He's also in probably the single best episode of 30 Rock. If there is any episode of 30 Rock that you watched, Lotus, seek that one out in particular. It is part of the first season and also so good that like you couldn't possibly top it. It's like there are other really great episodes. That's a good show in general, but it's just so good. It's amazing.
Sure.
And he is a major character in that episode. He was also kind of an he was also like a character that kind of was a good foil to Murphy Brown. He was like her the running gag was that she was so terrible like to her assistants that they always quit. So like every episode she would have a new assistant. That was the gag. Like she was just very demanding and hard to deal with. Like the Devil Wears Prada kind of thing.
Sure.
But Paul Rubens was the only person to be there for more than one episode. And then ended up kind of becoming her like supervillain, which is really funny in retrospect. But Batman Returns. So you have that, and you also have Selena Kyle's character being established a bit after that. There's also just like the Penguin. The Penguin's is established at like much differently than he is in the comics. It's definitely a very Tim Burton like beginning. It's very similar to like Edward Scissorhands. You just have a character who is his backstory is that he's deformed, whereas like the original OG Penguin, he's just a rich guy who likes birds.
And Selena Kyle's origin story is striking enough that it got like a callback in Arkham City. Like decades later.
Yeah. So Catwoman isn't really complicated in the comics or anything else. She's just a cat burglar who dresses up as a cat. That is it. So. It is really interesting what they did with her in this, and basically gave her like a resurrection. They have a character. She's also an assistant who is abused by a character that doesn't exist in the comics, who is named after the actor of
Nosferatu. Max Schreck.
Played by Christopher Walken.
Speaking of resurrection, though, because she fell off a building, which should have killed her, but it also effectively was the death of her super timid persona. And the birth of the Catwoman.
So they gave her a more ironically a more comic booky origin than she actually had.
And then a bunch of cats went around her and made her into a cat.
And revived her.
Pretty much. What was clever about the movie, though, was also that she had multiple instances where she probably should have died, and they just the movie just used that as ways of counting down her 9 lives.
Yeah, exactly.
It's you theoretically could have survived that, but nah, let's just say it's -1 life. I got a real kick out of that.
Another really interesting thing that they did that was unique to these characters is that Penguin has a circus theme
that was really weird. He's
that
got a bunch
he
of clown
never
thugs.
Does anywhere else. He is not associated with the circus
thing.
anywhere
His legions
else.
are clowns. What?
Yeah, so you really got the feeling that Tim Burton just really likes the fucking circus, which is true.
And then he made Dumbo.
Exactly, that's what I mean. He really just loves circus freak shows as a motif. So he, even in Pee-wee's Big Adventure, that's apparent. Like clowns and stuff. Tents. Yeah, exactly.
But also like Nightmare Before Christmas, where everybody's weird because it's Halloween monsters.
Exactly. So like that the whole freak thing is his thing. So it's just interesting that they imparted this motif on the Penguin that never even was referenced later. It's actually kind of funny. Usually, at least a little bit from the movies, if it's popular, and this was a popular movie.
But again, the disparity
Yeah.
Penguin has a bunch of fish henchmen? No, he's got clowns.
Penguin is a mob boss that likes birds. He's a rich man who likes birds. But
they went all in with the movie where he has like flipper hands.
Yeah, he's a deformed child who has flipper hands who got rescued by the circus in the sewer.
And he didn't even know like what his real name was. He found that out later in the movie.
Yeah, exactly, and that was never a thing. Oswald Cobblepot was always his name. He was called the Penguin to his chagrin at first in the comics, and kind of as a mockery. Kind of as mockery at first, but then he embraces it. But it's really interesting. But hell, if that initial this is also a Christmas movie, if you will, because like
it really kind of is,
the whole thing revolves around the Penguin being born around Christmas time and then being abandoned by his parents in a very Moses like fashion, just thrown into the river,
just drifting along,
exactly, in a bassinet, but. Yeah, then he comes back as an adult to terrorize Gotham during the tree lighting scene, so, of the year when, much later. And I find that that scene is really, really fun. I just love Batman fighting the entire circus, the guy on stilts, the guys with big skull heads on motocross motorcycles. You have him fighting all kinds of clowns, fire throwers.
Yeah, these guys are really method.
Yeah, no, they're circus people that will fuck you up, which is kind of funny because circus people are generally timid in real life. They're
you seen Indiana Jones: The Last Crusade? Those guys will fuck you up. Just throwing knives.
Yeah. They're it's just really sword swallowers and jugglers and stuff. The whole bit. But it is a really fun action sequence, and I definitely recommend you watch it. But that's kind of getting to my point in talking about this, is that this isn't so much a Batman movie in that it is a Tim Burton-ass Tim Burton movie with Batman in it.
Yeah, that's the thing. We've already had our time to I know we didn't really focus heavily on the origin story of Batman, but the first Tim Burton movie was a character movie for Batman, but the second one, okay, you know who Batman is.
He's barely in it.
Yeah, we really focus on the Penguin and Catwoman and their dynamics with Batman and with each other. I particularly like when Catwoman reveals herself to Batman and the Penguin. They're both ready to fight, and then she just shows up and they're like,
and explodes,
and just steals their scene.
Yeah,
and Penguin's Penguin's just like, see you later. He just leaves. I saw her first. Gotta fly.
Yeah, I like that they also introduced him. They did get him though to pursue politics, which I thought was an interesting angle.
Kind of against his will. He had to be convinced to do it. Okay, I'll be mayor.
But the thing is, that is a perfect thing to do, is to legitimize yourself. That's what the mafia tries to do, is they try to set up. They do their bad deeds until they can cross over into legitimacy, so they don't have to watch their back anymore. Yeah. So
that was a plot of one of the Yakuza games, actually.
That is
the police.
That is a plot of Godfather Part 3. But
yeah, I've mentioned this before. There was an interview with Yakuza devs talking about, or not Yakuza devs, actual members of the Yakuza talking about the accuracies and inaccuracies of Yakuza 3. And at one point, one of them made a joke, politicians, Yakuza, what's the difference anymore? It's like, oh, jeez.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to say is, it's pretty interesting that they went down that route. But there's also, just some really, gross Tim Burton stuff in here, when the Penguin gnaws on that guy's nose for no fucking reason.
That is the one part of the movie that I still kind of flinch away from. It could be worse. My nose could be gushing blood. And then you just see him after that. He's still got blood running down his mouth, like the Penguin does from having fucking bit a guy with his. We didn't mention this before, but his like sharp
razor
teeth.
Yeah, and he also eats like raw fish because I guess that's what he's accustomed to.
Yeah, why not? I forgot about that actually, but yeah, he totally does.
Like a penguin,
like a fish. Yeah.
Yeah. This is something that. Like I said, this is a Tim Burton movie with a few Batman scenes thrown in because Batman, like I said, Batman is barely in this movie. It is mostly a Penguin
it's a villain
movie.
Character study. It's Penguin and Catwoman.
Yeah,
like you particularly feel for those characters while you're aware that they're the bad guys. Penguin more so than Catwoman, but they're both definitely villains.
Now I do like some of the things that happen in this movie quite a bit. Like you have the him like taking over the Batmobile, like hacking into it, which I think is awesome. I thought that was a great scene.
Awesome. I think it's awesome. I like the scene, but it was handled
very
really
goofily.
Comically.
Yeah, very goofily. But I do like the idea of it, at least. But I also like the fact that like the Batmobile can kind of like morph, it can like shed its skin and stuff like that. Yeah,
that was cool. Pretty sweet. That was pretty sweet.
There are cool things, and also the fact that he like has to search around for the the transmitter is just like he just like punches through the.
Yeah, he had to rip into his own car.
Yeah, that's just really cool.
I just love like it's stupid, but I still like it when the Penguin's just effectively driving the Batmobile and just making it go crazy. Like, this might be a bad time to tell you this, but my license is expired. Like, that's not a Penguin joke. That's a fucking, like, Joker joke.
Yeah, no. See, that's the thing is, he's not all that different from the Joker, honestly. And you hinted on that before.
Again, the clown henchman. Yeah. Like, he does have actual penguins, but he's got the clown?
Yeah.
Like, the clowns.
Yeah. It's really kind of funny how they ended up doing that. Here's the thing. The movie is pretty darn like fun throughout, and then the climax is like everything leading up to the climax of the movie is one of the most ridiculous things I've ever seen in my life.
The denouement of that was like,
yeah,
what? It was one step too far. But the Penguins like walk him out.
So all of a sudden, the Penguin gets disenfranchised. His Batman like reveals to everyone that he is not a model politician. Go figure. And he needs to. He goes on to kidnap the firstborn of too Jewish
too Jewish. But no, actually, that was probably my favorite. Like, neither line holds up in a vacuum, but the person one, person two, that is by far my favorite line in the entire movie, where that one clown henchman goes like, killing firstborn kid of every single person in Gotham, like, isn't that a little... And then Penguin just shoots him and he goes, no, it's a lot. I'm like, oh shit, that's amazing.
But like after that, like the movie just escalates. There are all of a sudden the like real penguins are trained penguins with rockets on their backs.
But they're remote controlled somehow, because like you could just turn them off and make them not do their thing. Like, what was that?
Yeah, he's going through the sewer in a
giant rubber ducky.
That and
it wasn't rubber, but it's a giant.
Yes, it's
thing that looks like a rubber ducky. It's huge.
It's the motif of a rubber ducky. Yes, like the bat like sewer ship that he has.
Yeah, he just has that.
So it just escalates and escalates and escalates.
Oh, by the way, one other thing I want to shout out that I really got a kick out of when I first saw it, going back to Catwoman's creation. You know that whole montage where she's tearing up her place and reforming herself? She has this, like... I love when movies or
wall.
shows...
Yeah.
There's the wall. But I love when movies and shows do this. It's so rare for it to work. But she has, like, a neon pink, like, lights that say hello there. and I think she like cracks two of the letters with her whip. Like the O and the T, so it's hell here.
Yeah.
There are two other examples I can think of that are extremely clever where that's happened. One of them was in No More Heroes 2, where you're in the... What was it? The motel you're in, it just says No More Heroes above it with a neon sign. Yeah. And when you finally get to have sex, and it's like that comical thing where you're like shaking up the place.
Yeah.
And some of the lights go out, so the no disappears, and the H and maybe the E disappear. So instead of No More Heroes, it says More Eros. And considering that's coming from Japan, that's really fucking clever for like an English pun that's referencing Greek anyway.
Yeah.
And the other joke I love, which I never noticed for years.
Shoot 'em up. They do a similar joke.
Oh, you're right. Like fuck you or you too or something like that.
Exactly.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
But the other one I really really love was an old episode of The Simpsons with Bart's Comet, where they were trapped in town because there's a bridge out of town that's comically labeled Only Bridge Out of Town. And like a piece of the asteroid falls and breaks part of the bridge, so it gets rid of Only and of Town, so it goes from Only Bridge Out of Town, and it busts up the bridge, and the sign now says Bridge Out. Like, that's fucking excellent.
Now, I don't know but I can't remember Catwoman ever being associated with a bullwhip before this movie. Can you? Like, was she ever associated with a bullwhip?
I mean, it would have been in the 60s show, and I don't think she had a whip.
No, I think she was just a cat burglar. That was it.
You're probably right. Simple. I mean, they really went with the whole thing, though, because she got, like, the whole, like, S&M sort of, like, leather gear, so the whip goes with that.
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, like, her look in this movie is very iconic, but also, like, very idiosyncratic.
Yeah, because it was the polar opposite of who she was before. It's like, what if I went, like, super sexy, super aggressive? Oh, but speaking of which, by the way, this is just a little thing, but you know that scene where she's, what was it? Like, in the department store, was it?
Yeah.
Where she's, like, skipping rope with the whip and whipping off the mannequins' heads?
Yeah, yeah.
Like, that was her. She did that for real.
Oh, wow.
Like, you could see, like, I think it's on YouTube, you could see, like, just the filming of, and the crew's like, oh, damn. That's great.
But she is in basically, like, sexy leather, but it's all stitched together and to make one big, gigantic suit. But
I don't know how you put that shit on, honestly.
With stitching like, stitch marks all over it, like visible stitching all over it to make like it look like scars. Like scars.
That's the thing. It's like a super exaggerated version of, like, Sally from Nightmare Before Christmas, where she's kind of a Frankenstein's monster. She's got the stitching across, like, a quarter of her head. Or, like,
it comes across as very grimdark and, like, edgy as a result. But, like,
it kind of works because Gotham is grimdark anyway. She's maybe pushing a little bit, but it's like she's not that out of place in this shit city.
But, this version of it is so iconic because, you know, first of all, it's Michelle Pfeiffer. She's like one of the most beautiful people
in that movie.
Of all time. Yeah. And she was this, you know, the sexy character all the way back in Scarface. So, like, you know, like she still was sexy. So, like, that's kind of the amazing thing about it. And she's still good looking. But, Bruno Mars even refers to her in Uptown Funk. But yeah, like, you know, she's an icon in terms of her looks. But yeah, she also, like, seemingly has kind of, like, inspiration from like pop stars at the time, like Madonna and things like that, because Madonna was, like, big into the S&M kind of stuff.
Well, no, I mean, regarding that, I heard that Madonna was, like, I think she, like, was, like, approached for the role. I think she turned it down. So there you go.
She would have been perfect. I mean, she ended up being in a similar themed movie in Dick Tracy as Breathless Mahoney.
Okay.
Very, very much around that time when Warren that was Warren Beatty's. Like, Dick Tracy would have never been made without this movie, for sure. Or the original, the original Tim Burton one. But anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Catwoman, like was kind of reinvented here, and now she is the thing that got brought into mainstream continuity of Catwoman's character is not the stitching, or the sexy outfit was always a thing. You know,
She's got like the
leather
one piece suit.
Yeah,
not
yeah.
even necessarily leather, just like the
leotard kind of thing. Yeah. But the cat suit rather.
Touche. Yeah.
The whip has been brought into her arsenal.
It's funny how that works, because like it made sense in context for the movie, but now she just kind of has a whip. Why not?
Yeah, it's just her weapon.
There are certain things where they serve a specific purpose before, but then other things replicate them. Like you know what makes me think of. I think Red Letter Media probably mentioned this before, but like, you know the staple in slasher movies where like only the virgin girl lives, the people having sex die.
Yeah, sure.
It's just a trope. But in Friday the 13th, that was part of the plot. Like, the counselors were having sex and therefore not paying attention to the kids, and Jason drowned on their watch. That's why he's mad at people who have sex. It's a Jason-specific thing.
Yeah.
But other people watch the series and they're like, oh, that's a trope. He kills people having sex. I guess it's a lesson on morality. Like, I mean, in the first movie, debatable, but now it's just like as a general rule, that's just how it works.
It was actually Mrs. Voorhees that was.
Okay, it was Mrs. Voorhees, but like, the point is though they were slashing up people having sex, like not because sex is immoral, but it's because they weren't doing their jobs.
Yeah, exactly. They were neglect.
But sorry,
it was neglect.
Slasher's gonna kill teenagers having sex in the woods. That's just the rule now, I guess.
Yeah,
so it's the same thing with Catwoman's whip, like S&M gear, whip. I get it, dominatrix kind of thing, sure. But now, even in the animated series, I think she just has a whip.
Yep.
Because it's cool. I don't know.
She just has a whip as part of like
Why
her
not?
arsenal. Yeah, exactly. In several of her incarnations, not all of them. The Halle Berry one has it as a weapon as well.
That one also made sense because she went from very, pardon the expression, mousy to like a wild change in personality. So that was also justified. That wasn't
you heard it here, folks. Lotus actually knows something about that movie, whereas nobody else has ever seen it.
I've seen it on TV. But no, like that actually, believe it or not, that actually made sense. Like Halle Berry getting the whip, like she did something very similar to what Michelle Pfeiffer did.
Yeah.
Anne Hathaway did not have a whip, but why would she?
Yeah, exactly.
She was, like, the whole thing with the Nolan universe is it was supposed to be more like grounded in reality.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Why would you just walk around with a whip? Like, this isn't Kick-Ass where it's like, I'll take a quirky thing and just walk around town with it.
Yeah, the thing is, that was the whole premise of Kick-Ass, though. Like, the comic is just like he was a guy who dressed up in a stupid costume that he made at home and then got the shit beat out of him.
Yeah, it's like, just because you wear a costume doesn't mean like you could beat up guys that are bigger than you when you couldn't have before. You're not actually a superhero. They say that
fighting two people at one time is one of the most difficult things that you can do.
It's so bad. And they actually addressed that in a much later Kick-Ass comic too, where like that high level police officer, I forgot his name, was yelling at Hit Girl. He's like, "You're not a superhero. You're a fucking psycho who put on a costume."
Exactly.
You happen to claim to be fighting for the good guys, but you're still a fucking nut.
You cleave people in half. She literally cleaves people in half. I know they're bad
guys, but like the Punisher's a fucking criminal too. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, so you have a very iconic looking movie. Like this was it was so popular around the world because like it was so striking looking. Like all the designs of all the characters are very idiosyncratic. It's hard to ignore. It's really cool looking. And it's also like weird interpretations of characters that like never were like this before. So yeah, I mean, I think this movie, though, like I said before, like the first movie is like, I'm actually just gonna straight up say I love the first Batman Tim Burton movie as a Batman movie. Like it's a good Batman movie. Like he doesn't have the non-killing thing, but other than that, I love it. You know, it and I also, I don't know, like I'm okay with Batman like in certain situations.
Yeah, there are certain interpretations. Like, that wasn't really like a hard rule, I don't think.
It was in the comics when the Comics Code Authority, was a thing, you know.
Well,
like,
no, I mean that's fair, but this was like, I mean, you could argue it's like that wasn't the original intent of Batman. They had to deal with that. So like, let's bring Batman back to being hardcore. So like, I mean, now he has a no killing rule, which is an interesting dynamic of his character. But like,
I always like that Robot Chicken sketch where he's just like beating the crap out of people and like barely within an inch of their lives, and he's just like, I'm not killing you, see?
Yeah,
like...
there are some comics where it's like, yeah, that's, I mean, even in the Nolan movie, when that one criminal is like, from one professional to another, pick a scarier spot. Like, there's no way I'll die from a fall like this. And he's like, I'm counting on it, and just fucking drops him. He like breaks his leg or something. It's like, I think we're pushing the envelope a little bit here.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, yeah, I think we'll take this as a good spot to stop, because we went over the whole movie and kind of like the gist of it. The next episode we'll delve into just kind of like what we did before, the marketing and the result of everything, and of course move on to talking a little bit about the animated series as well, because the animated series comes out after this, the second movie, so we could say that is a direct lead in, so we can go from there. So let's go into fan stuff, Lotus.
Sure. So we have a couple of comments from School Filmer. I may have been slightly bummed that Jibanyan didn't make it to Smash. That's a big Yokai Watch character.
Oh, okay.
Even if any Yokai Watch representation there had a Shadow's chance of the darkness, to be completely honest. But Sora's a heck of a way to go out with a bang. I'm looking forward to being able to play as him, and every character that's been added has been very solid.
See, the only problem I have with him is that the hitbox on his shoes is just going to be way too unwieldy.
If he kicks you, you're just out. That's it. Anyway, got cook, serve, delicious. 3? Question mark, exclamation point. Yes, that's the punctuation they went with. So that was like, that wasn't him being cute. That's what's called. I got it last week, and I like it so far, even if it's more hectic. I imagine playing with the keyboard is easier. Still fun, though. And then I can't begin to count how many times I've made lasagna due to cook, serve, delicious. Even the third game has this tip. Please be responsible and do not play Cook Serve Delicious 3 on an empty stomach, and stay fully hydrated between stops.
There you go.
If you start feeling dizzy, take a pizza break. I mean, for real, I mean, that's a legit rule, though. Like, it's a classic. Like, don't go grocery shopping on an empty stomach.
Because you'll just be buying
a bunch of shit. Yeah.
Buy everything, yeah.
On the topic of barrel turkey, oh yeah, that. I remember some quote from Kid Icarus Uprising. Floor ice cream gives you health. Yeah, that's like wall meat from Castlevania. It's like, whatever, exactly. Just go with it. It's fine. Living Corpse had a bunch of comments, but I'm going to take 2. Now I want to see a Streets of Rage movie where the heroes walk down the street fighting off gangs, making their way to the evil CEO's skyscraper, and occasionally digging in trash cans, like Burns to find a meal when not fighting. Or trash cans like bums. I misread the R and the N as the M as an R and an N. To find a meal while not fighting. Maybe the restaurants dump food and the day's over. Food waste is insanely common. Or, as you guys suggested, the bad guys are about to eat. See the heroes are coming and try hiding their food. That would be kind of cute, though. Like, quick, hide the fully roasted chicken that we're eating in the middle of the street. Where am I going to put it? There's nowhere to put it. Behind a can. We'll beat them before they get there. It's fine.
It marinates behind those bricks.
Yeah, it's delicious. So, and then the other comments. Joker's laugh box at the end of the Tim Burton Batman is haunting. Even his corpse has a smile. Yeah, and it's not even like just the fact that he has a smile painted on his face because he's a clown. Like, he's smiling anyway.
He's actually smiling. He thinks it's funny.
It's an interesting way to go down.
Yeah.
So what the hell? Also, I love that the bat signal came about because the cops witnessed the bat wing being silhouetted in front of the moon. Yeah, that was clever. Yeah, he gave us the signal when they unveiled the bat signal. Finally, Joker's long-ass revolver has a collapsible barrel. Sorry to ruin the hammer space illusion. You know what, Living Corpse? Blocked. Sorry. Has to happen.
I prefer my own headcanon. Thank you.
Yeah, I want to believe in bullshit. Sorry. So originally the script was going to have a tank hidden in the float to shoot down the Batwing. That's actually pretty clever. That makes sense. It was just a tank the whole time. Not as comical as the gun, but that's still on brand. Like, oh, it was a tank. This whole thing, this parade float was a tank. Like, that's not full-on Joker, but that's pretty good. That's pretty good. And it's a lot more plausible that it shot down a plane in one shot than, like a revolver or a pistol or whatever that was.
It would be more on brand to have the actual, like, the parade floats to like have munitions on them. Like I
like,
mean
like
they
the big
they
goofy
they
balloons
did
have little guns.
they did have poison gas
The
on
poison
them.
gas.
Yeah, but like to have them actually like be automated and that like
Yeah,
the
that's
Joker
something the
uses
animated series
robots
would've
quite a
done.
bit actually.
Yeah, the animated series would have had stuff like that.
You killed Captain Clown.
Yeah. Or like
He was just
his...
a fucking Terminator. Where did he get a Terminator?
There's a lot of stuff in the Batman, just anything. Like, where did he get that? I mentioned this before, but that giant slot machine looks like you've hit the jackpot, Batman, and giant coins fall, and it's like, this is idiotic. And then the question, Fakafan asks, what type of room are you most comfortable in? Certain color, ceiling level, size, location, people or objects inhabiting it. Personally, I like wide rooms with high ceilings, kind of like a studio apartment. I don't know about, like, I'm not going to go full on, like, warehouse space wide. I like an intimate kind of room. I don't necessarily need high ceilings, just nothing pressing. I don't know, medium. I will say, though, one thing that I very much want is, like, white light and not like yellowish light bulb light, because like I can't stand that. Like I know it might be a little too bright sometimes, maybe you'll break out the yellow light, but like if you're trying to read, it's like trying to drive when the sun is setting and you're straining your eyes to pick up what little light there is. When I first got an office hour at the university I work at, I had like a little room with the yellow light, and just commenting on papers and that was awful. It just sucks. So I want white light, please.
So my favorite type of room is actually I kind of lucked into this, but my house has like my favorite type of like setting to relax in. So my living room faces the south, and we're on the top of a hill. So we very clearly see the sun all day long and in its entire arc.
That's cool.
And we can see the sunset pretty easily as well. But it just looks beautiful at the end of the day and the beginning of the day. And we also have skylights. So we have high cathedral ceilings in my living room, and we have skylights. So my living room gets a fair amount of natural light in during the mornings, and it's really nice to read in and relax in, and to wake up and drink your coffee in.
Yeah, that is nice. Like, again, going back to the light situation, when you're reading, you want the right kind of light. Natural's even better.
Natural's the best if you're not being pounded by the sun.
Yeah, and as long as, again, it's not
indirect.
Sunset, you have a little light. Yeah, so
yeah.
But if it's in the right conditions, then it's probably ideal. I'd rather go out, like, if I had the choice between, like, outdoor conditions versus being inside with, like, a lamp. But I mean, I'd rather be indoors, but the reading would be better outdoors.
So this setting, I was trying to, when I first moved in here, and I recognized how much I loved my living room in particular in the early morning. I kind of was thinking, I was like, this feels nostalgic. If that makes any sense. Like I was getting a nostalgic feeling, but I didn't know why. You know how you sometimes get that?
Could it be something similar to what I had, where it's like, oh, this is like my grandma's house, and I haven't been there in like a decade, and this is kind of like that.
So what it reminds me of is just the natural light and the way that it's lit, and also the skylights, remind me of the shore home that we always used to rent, me and my parents, growing up. And so, like, I always had that feeling of relaxation and, fun mornings and, waking up on my own, whenever I felt like it, and then waking up and reading comic books and relaxing, right? So those are really great feelings, just feeling comforted and relaxed. And when I was a kid, this, that's the way I felt at that location. And so I am so lucky that my living room, where I live, happens to feel like that, because it just is the best feeling in the world for me. I used to live in an apartment, you know this, that was a single bedroom apartment. We had a kitchen, a that was attached to a small living room, and the only thing that was left was an office nook and our bedroom, right? And a tiny bathroom. That didn't get a whole lot of good natural light in it, and was very dark in there, and it was very hard to read as a result. Sure. Even the way that the lights were set up, a lot of them were permanent, so like it wasn't like we even like added our own lights. They were dull, and it made it difficult to read. And I love reading. I read comic books and novels all the time, and all kinds of other things, to be honest. And I really missed that when I was there, but I'm very fortunate that I have this room. So I like that. And I also really love my basement, which I've set up with a lot of like neon-ish signs for having a good time, during the wee hours of the night, kind of, with my friends. So the way that I've set up, I kind of have like almost like a Blade Runner-esque like neon look to the way that I've set up my bar, because I put color changing lights in the floodlights.
Sure.
So normally, it looks normal down there, with the white lights that you're talking about.
Yeah.
But I do really like it for having a fun time when it has like a blue tinge to it. Like it makes it seem
that's
like
a mood. Yeah, that's not reading light. That's mood light.
Exactly, and I love that aesthetic. For a party atmosphere. So yeah, those are my two things.
Good stuff.
Yep. Well, anything else, Lotus, while we are at it?
No, I think I'm good.
Well, that's the show for this week. We want to thank all of our fans who contributed questions. Please keep us supplied with awesome topics by submitting questions of your own via the YouTube and Soundcloud pages. We always need more. Please keep up with it. Whenever you think of something, we can even talk about something simple like we just did, and we even expounded upon it. While there, please give us thumbs ups, likes, and 5-star ratings on iTunes. Helps promote and spread awareness of the show, and any bit of encouragement helps keep the show going. You can also catch us on Tuesdays for our sister podcast, Corrective Consciousness, the in-depth look at this week in our lives. Finally, you can friend me as vysethebold on pretty much everything.
And you could follow me on my YouTube channel, Lotus Prince. You can hit me up on Twitter at Lotus Prince. And finally, if you are interested in seeing my videos early, getting in on exclusive live streams, selecting upcoming games for me to Let's Play, or getting in conversations with me and other patrons on Discord, then perhaps consider swinging by my Patreon account, which can be found at patreon.com/LotusPrince.
Well, that's wonderful. We will catch everybody on Tuesday then.
Until next time, everyone.
Bye-bye.